Get to pick the animal.
Oh no.
Jamie, by the way, not me. You get to pick the animal.
What's the one I hate the most because I know I'm not going to
Well,
like
I would personally pick one that you consume or use because then it's going to be more informative for you. Usually pigs, chickens, cows, eggs. About eggs.
Let's go with cows.
Cows, okay. We're doing this together.
Okay.
All right. So, what do you know about these industries? What comes to mind when you think of beef?
I don't really know.
Okay.
I know they don't. It's not usually that good.
Okay. So what we're seeing here is a mother with her baby. So this would be in the dairy industry. Okay. What do you think happens to the babies in the dairy industry, the baby cows?
I want to be hopeful and think good things, but I have a feeling that it's not really. I'm assuming for the certain meat, sometimes they get killed.
So the males don't produce milk, right? So they get killed. This is the farmer separating the babies from the mother. Cows are very maternal animals, so they bellow out for days and they return back to where the animal was taken from them. And what happens if they're a female, do you think, that they do produce milk?
They get put straight into like the
dairy production?
Yeah, dairy production.
So at 1 year old. And why do cows produce milk?
Isn't it to feed their children?
For the babies, right?
Yeah.
Same reason that humans have produced milk. So if they have to be pregnant to produce milk and they want them to constantly produce milk, does that mean they constantly are pregnant?
Oh my gosh, probably.
So they impregnate them. They impregnate them every year, and they have a 9-month pregnancy. And basically, whether they're a male or a female, they're both separated at birth, usually within 24 hours. And these are obviously the babies that are separated. Now, did you know that baby male cows were getting sent to the slaughterhouse?
No.
And what do you think happens to the mother cows once they can't produce milk anymore?
I'm assuming they also get sent to the slaughter.
They do. And so we talked about beef before. Most of the beef that's used for like second grade burgers and things like that come from the dairy industry. It's difficult to watch, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why is it so difficult to watch?
Oh, because they're so cute and it's just sad seeing that happen.
Yeah. And do you think it needs to happen?
No.
What can we do to stop this from happening? Why are these products being produced?
Because people buy them.
So it's supply and demand. And does that mean that as a consumer we have some power in that?
True, yeah.
So as a consumer we can
Stop buying
these products, right? And do you think that would have any impact?
Only if lots of people do it.
Okay. So if more people are aware?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that there's more people becoming vegan? I mean, you don't have statistics on you, but just on your intuition. Do you think more people are learning about this? Let me ask you another question. Do you think more let me ask you a question. Do you think more people would be vegan if they saw this?
Probably.
Okay. And so that might suggest there's something that people disagree with that they're seeing.
Sorry?
This would suggest that people disagree with this, that what they're seeing, if it would make them want to change their choices. Meaning that when you see this, there's something bad happening, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what would be difficult for you in, say, being vegan?
Mainly I've already tried, but usually it's more the taste of things.
What for example, what sort of taste?
I don't know the specifics, but I'm just like...
What products, I mean?
Like meat pies and stuff.
Okay.
I know what goes into what happens, but it's just kind of... I feel like there's some sort of addictive thing or something.
So funny you should say that. So, in the dairy industry, the cows produce milk, and to keep the baby coming back for milk, there's a chemical in there called casein. And when humans consume it, it creates casomorphine. And most of us know morphine, is addictive. So it creates an addictive substance, and that's why most people would say that they love cheese and they're addicted to cheese. And I was a vegetarian for 10 years, so I can vouch for that. I very much love cheese. Did you know that?
No.
So in that case, we're not only dealing with a moral, ethical issue, but also an addiction to these products. Now, you talked about the meat pie. There's not necessarily any chemical that we're addicted to, but do you think that it's harder to break habits the longer that we have those habits?
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you think we're creatures of comfort more often than not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that your taste palette would change over time?
Most likely.
Yeah. And do you think, what do you value more, taste or an animal's life?
Oh, well, I'm seriously considering not. I don't want this to happen, so far out. I didn't think a video could do this, but oh my god.
Well, the thing is that most people don't see this when they purchase the products, right? So these industries don't want us to see this, do they?
No.
I can tell you're upset, and that's a really normal reaction to have. We have watched more than a minute, so it's up to you how much more we watch. Now, I have plenty of I can show you eggs, I can show you any other industry if you want to learn about them, but just know that in all of these industries, all the animals end up, if they don't die on the farm, they end up going into a slaughterhouse. And in the egg industry, the males are also treated as a byproduct because they don't produce eggs, so they're ground up alive or gassed. So let's get back to the vegan thing. Would you be open to trying a 22-day vegan challenge with a dietitian and full support if it was free?
Yeah.
Well, I can give you a link for that, and you can give it a try for 22 days. And then you can educate yourself further, and I would say that's the key to making that transition.
Is it vegan chocolate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. That would be really cruel of me to give you dairy chocolate after showing you that kind of footage.
I was going to say, after seeing that, I don't want.
Yeah. So that video is Dominion. That's free on YouTube. It is difficult to watch, but do you think it's important that people are aware of what they're supporting and funding? Okay. And I'll give you this flyer. Where have I put mine? Over here.
Oh man.
It's full on. I know it can be full on. And these are all different products you can already purchase that you can substitute out. And there's ice cream, chocolate, all these things, so that you don't actually miss out on any of the things you love. It's just about actually knowing where to purchase them and get them from.
Yeah.
I know that was pretty traumatic. If you do feel like, I don't know, if you're very sensitive to that kind of thing and you feel bad, they do actually on their website have like some resources and stuff on there, on the Dominion website. One last thing, environment. Are you aware of the environmental impact of these industries?
Not exactly.
Okay, so what I'll point you to, this documentary is about the health, what the health, Game Change is about health and athletes, Forks Over Knives, Where is My Other One, Cowspiracy is about the environment. This is the number one contributor to climate change, these industries. Vegan 22 is the resource on here to sign up for 22 days, and these are all places you can eat out. Do you have any other questions at all?
No, not really.
Yeah. And do you think, this is the last question, do you think being vegan is easy when we look at it from the animal's perspective? When we put ourselves in their position?
Kind of.
Like when you watch that, the reason that you feel so bad is probably because you empathize with them, right? So you're putting yourself in, you're able to empathize and put yourself in their situation. So what I'm saying is when we go to purchase a beef product, often we're not thinking about the animals, right? So what I would say is that when you go to purchase a product, to keep in mind the animals, because during that period of time where you're changing, there'll be the habits and there'll be those things there that will, yeah. Got any other questions?
No.
Do you think there's any nutrients you'd be, I mean, you're not a nutritionist, I know, but just off the top, do you think there's any nutrients you'd be lacking or anything by going vegan? Like, is there anything you've heard that you'd be missing?
Not really, as long as you make up with the correct vegetables and stuff.
Yeah, so you could have a well-balanced diet. The whole food plant-based diet, which is what I eat, no, I don't really eat any processed foods anymore, which I can't believe because it's been a journey, is the only diet proven to reverse the top 14 out of 15 preventable diseases. So a vegan diet, there is no one vegan diet. There are things that are vegan, and by not consuming those products, you're not contributing to this. But if you do, obviously health is important for us. You are eliminating a lot of risks of heart disease and diabetes and things by not contributing these to not consuming these products. But if you want to live the healthiest as a vegan, a whole food plant-based diet is the healthiest diet to consume. But I would say while you're transitioning and while you're eat the things you love, because that's what's going to make it enjoyable. Okay. Cool. Any other questions?
Is it expensive?
No. Depends on it can be expensive. So consuming animal products can be expensive if you were to buy all gourmet cheeses and whatever. So some of these products on here are probably, like in some cases, slightly more expensive. The milks are cheaper, but it depends on the products that you buy if you want the processed foods. So processed foods are always going to be more expensive, but I eat super cheap because it's fruits, vegetables, grains, rice, legumes, nuts, seeds, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you can eat very cheaply. If you want to eat processed foods all the time, it's going to be expensive either way, right?
Yeah.
But I guess if you were to go to like Burger King or any of those, sorry, Burger King, Hungry Jack's. The reason I said Burger King, I just had the Impossible Burger, just came out in America. But we have a vegan burger at Hungry Jack's now.
Yeah.
We have vegan options at Domino's. So at all the same places that you eat out. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where would I go to watch other videos about?
So, yeah, that's a great question. So on here are some documentaries, but it depends on what you want. Like Dominion is on YouTube for free.
So does that have the different animals?
It goes through all the animals. And it's narrated by Joaquin Phoenix. So he's an animal rights activist, he's a vegan. And it goes through all the different animals and the way they use it. It includes like circuses and SeaWorld, all these things as well. What do you think would be the moral issue with like entertainment, like horse racing and?
Just that they're not they're forced to do certain things that they may not.
Yeah, the reason I ask you is because it's like we're exploiting them, right? And the root issue that I've come to see is that the root of all these issues is the seeing someone else as here for us,
Yeah.
and using them against their will, right? Like these animals can't give consent, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we oppose all these forms of animal use, because the fundamental issue is exploitation and slavery, rather than it being the different purpose. It's just like, is exploitation fundamentally wrong, or is there a right way to exploit someone?
I don't think so.
Yeah, and most people would say that, right? So veganism then is not a diet. It's actually about aligning your values with your aligning your actions with your pre-existing values.
Yeah.
Because if we asked 99% of people who would be against animal cruelty, and the one person that wasn't against it would probably be like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
So most people feel the same way as you and me. It's just that their actions don't reflect their values.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Have you found this useful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to convince me to continue, I might just continue watching the videos.
Yeah, that's a really great thing to do. And also another thing, once you are vegan or transitioning, a great way is to actually become active. So we'll go to like slaughterhouses and see the animals come in. Sometimes we'll do other things like go to the city and we'll outreach to people. Probably at this point that seems like a bit further down the line, but the reason I say that is because the first step is to not contribute, and the second step is to speak up, because if you were in their situation, you would want someone fighting for your rights. And that can be a really great way to deal with what you're going to get exposed to as a vegan, because I've recognized that your fundamental worldview, mine anyway, has shifted, because when I go to the meat section now, I see the animals. When I go to I see horse racing, I see that. So just keep that in mind, that if you watch a lot of this stuff and you make that change, a great way to channel that frustration and anger is into actually creating change. Cool. You're a legend. Thank you so much for stopping. I appreciate it.